the national anthem. Thank you. All right. Okay. Well, one of the pledge allegiance first. Okay. Okay.
Facebook Live.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now the national anthem.
Twilight's last gleam, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er ramparts we watch, were so gallantly streamed, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, through the night. Oh, save us and star-spangled banner yet wave on the land of the free and the home of God. I'm getting 1,000,000 hearts and likes.
Thank you. Okay. All right. I'll give a very brief introduction and I'll give the floor to Curtis. Now, this was this was organized by Charlie Waruska and myself. Yes, and due to all the scheduling difficulties, we couldn't get Curtis here until tonight. So last night, it was 10 o'clock. Curtis called and said, "I'm free. I'm coming to Middle Village." So I said, "All right, I'll blast it out." So thank you for all the Middle Village Mass-Fist friends in Facebook, Instagram, and so on and so forth. WeChat, so we were able to blast it out, and thank you all for coming. Thank you, the press, for the last-minute notice. Okay, and without further ado, he's our next mayor of New York City, Curtis Sliwa.
Thank you, Phil. You know me, I'm not a fair weather friend. I've been here again and again and again. Going back to Maspeth, when this community, in alliance with Glendale and Middle Village and other residents who came from surrounding areas, beat back Steve Banks and Mayor Bill de Blasio, who tried to shove a shelter into your neighborhood.
That's right, you did. Lousy bum.
At the Holiday Inn Express. And there were dozens of people who assembled each and every night. And they were not going to give you an opportunity to speak, even though you pay the taxes, even though you elect the officials, even though you subsidize the homeless services program along with other taxpayers. They basically told you you are people of no consequence. And if you remember, I joined you in solidarity, as did citizens in all 5 boroughs.
Yes, you did. And you deserve to get a vote from Middle Village, Maspeth, and Glendale. Go out there and vote for you because he deserves it.
Your argument was you wanted to help these homeless people. You wanted them to get their aid to deal with their underlying issues, drug addiction, alcohol problems, emotional and mental issues. But Stephen Banks, the architect of this Department of Homeless Services program that has jammed 80 shelters into neighborhoods, whose best friend, Mayor Bill de Blasio, said to anybody that was negative towards the shelters that you're all racist. You remember that, right? Even though you were black, white, Hispanic, Asian, all coming together as homeowners and residents of this community, and you weren't given an opportunity to have any transparency or dialogue. Well, guess what? My opponent, Eric Adams, who is proven to be Bill de Blasio 2.0, has said, if given the opportunity, he would keep Stephen Banks on as the Department of Homeless Services Director. No wonder why the other night in the last debate when we were asked the question, what grade would you give Mayor de Blasio? I said F and tell him to get the hell out of New York City. Go back to Boston. And Eric Adams, who has been his partner, his friend, his teammate, in helping to single-handedly destroy the city that we love. Look at Brooklyn. More crime, more gangs, more drive-bys, more graffiti, more potholes, more garbage. And he stands there and embraces the architect of this destruction of our city. Well, guess what? He gave him a B+. A B+. Boy, I wish I had teachers like that in school for my mark. That is classic social promotion. So it's very clear, as Bill de Blasio today has put his jackboot in the necks of heroes, of essential workers, police, firefighters, sanitation workers, as he's done before with those who work in hospitals, in healthcare, and teachers. He's fired them. It's not a layoff, they're fired. They'll receive no pay. They'll receive no unemployment. They can't even go out and get another job. Thousands. He estimates 23,000 civil servants. As he has disgraced those heroes, those of 9/11, cops, firefighters, EMTs, EMS, court officers. And now, in the aftermath of the lockdown and pandemic, when they crawled into the belly of the beast, when they went where coronavirus was killing people, and they took all kinds of risks. They didn't have the proper mask. They didn't have the proper equipment. They died. They were seriously made ill, and they brought the coronavirus sometimes back to their families. And for this, they get treated as zeros. Like Michael Corleone in The Godfather. On his way out, Bill de Blasio is settling all scores. And you know what I'm going to do on January 2nd? I get elected mayor. We rehire all these heroes. They'll no longer be zeros. We give them their back pay. And then we have a special march through the Canyon of Heroes for those who had insult added to injury, and we right the wrong. And we're not going to go in those schools, and we're not going to mask up those kids where they can't hear the teacher can't hear them, and then without parental involvement, they want to start vaccinating children. Think of it. Tomorrow, some of you will be voting for the first time in this mayoral election. Those of you who did not get involved in early voting or had requested an absentee ballot. When you get to your polling location, an indoor facility, probably a public school, guess what? You will not be asked for a vaccine passport. You will not even be asked for ID to vote. One of the most sacred privileges citizens of the United States have. People have died for your right to vote, been injured, have made great sacrifice to preserve that liberty and freedom. And yet, you could go across the street to a deli or a restaurant, sit down for a little meal, have something to drink, and you have to show your vaccine passport and an ID. How crazy is that?
Bullshit! Bullshit!
And then if you went to Nassau or Suffolk County, you don't have to show anything. Well, guess what? Curtis Lee was about common sense. Forget the party labels. I won the Republican primary, and I am on the independent party line. And quite frankly, for 42 years, you've known me. I've never asked for a paycheck. I don't wear bulletproof vests. I don't carry a gun, never intend on carrying a gun. And my biggest battles have been with yellow cabs, as you know. Shot in the back of a yellow cab on the orders of John Gotti Sr. to John Gotti Jr. and the Gambino crime family, June 19th of 1992. And just this past Friday, as I was running the WABC to do an hour expose about Eric Adams, I got kabonged by a yellow cab, flew about 6 feet in the air.
Was Carranza driving?
No, not Carranza, but I could have swore I saw Bill de Blasio behind the wheel.
He's buried.
So, I promise all of you one thing above all others: transparency, involvement. You're going to help make the decisions in your public schools, in your community. You're going to help point out to government what government needs to do for you, not what you need to do for the government. Because here in Middle Village, in Glendale, in Maspeth, you've been doing that for decades. When I'm the mayor, I'm going to be in the neighborhoods, not at City Hall. Trust me, when the mayor's at City Hall, they're getting wine, dined, and pocket line. My opponent, Eric Adams, is all of a sudden styling and profiling in $2,000 Ferragamos. Tailored suits that probably cost thousands. Vacationing in Monaco. Acts a guy up in the suites, not like me in the streets, the public housing projects, and in the subways. And lastly, when you come out and get your neighbors to vote for Curtis Sliwa, again with common sense, God forbid there's another flood, we're making sure that we clean out those sewers, those catch basins, and the drainage here. Every week we go around and do what they did when we were kids. And now all of a sudden they never do it. All they talk about is global warming, climate change. Well, how about just doing the basics, maintenance that you taxpayers have paid for, so you don't have your basements and your houses wiped out where you don't even have flood insurance? How about basic common sense? And then I'll finish on this note, and I'm running out of gas. Been going at it since 10 o'clock this morning. We'll go to 10 o'clock tomorrow morning when I have to vote, and then keep hitting the polling locations and subway stations to get those last-minute voters to the polls to save our city. What I'm going to do is find out where $1.25 billion went to a fake, phony, fraudulent Fugazi program called Thrive. Bill de Blasio and his wife said that our tax money would be used to help these helpless souls who wander our streets, live in our parks, live in our subways. You've seen me tend and care for them. I do that every day. They really are lost souls. And our government is to blame because they've abandoned them. When you see a man or a woman not in control of their mental or physical faculties, wandering around a threat to themselves and everyone else, you say, by God, we should be caring for these people. We have the money to do that. We have the mental health facilities and the medicines that can normalize them. Why are we not doing it? And what happened to the $1.25 billion over 5 years?
Where's the money? It went in the pocket.
Well, let me tell you, I become mayor through the good wishes of the people who vote for me. We get the spreadsheets out. Department of Investigation, investigate. Get the silver bracelets ready if necessary. And if that money wasn't spent for the right reasons, to help the lost souls, the emotionally disturbed, then let's get them a his and her cell on Rikers Island, the very place they want to shut down.
Yeah! Curtis! 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 Curtis!
You elect Eric Adams, and there's going to be a community jail coming into a community and neighborhood near you. You elect Eric Adams, and you'll have more of overnight no transparency, shelters shoved down your throats. And if you notice in a debate, he said, oh, I want to purchase empty hotels and motels and put homeless people in there and stabilize them. Well, that's a good idea if they have services, because right now, if you go to Cooper Avenue, where they shove the shelter down the throat of those in Glendale, there are no services for the mentally ill, for those with alcohol or drug problems. And think of it, he said, but we'll only buy hotels and motels in the outer boroughs. Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, the Bronx. He said, well, the reason we won't do it in Manhattan is there are no empty hotels. Now, let me tell you something. He knows nothing about this city. I pointed out to him, what are you talking about, Eric? There are at least 4 or 5 boarded up hotels in Manhattan alone. The reason he won't put them in Manhattan, he's been bought and he's been bossed. He's been wine, dined, and pocket lined by the hedge fund monsters, by the developers, by the realtors. He can't call the shots anymore. You know what he said the other night after our debate? He joined former Mayor Michael Bloomberg at an event for the Fortune Society, a great group that gets men and women back on track who've done prison time. But when it was his turn to talk in the bully pulpit, he said Michael Bloomberg is like Jesus Christ that settled the waters of the Sea of Galilee. That is a form of idolatry. That is a man who has been bought by the uber rich. Curtis Sliwa has never been bought, never been bossed. Stood up to gangs, stood up to organized crime. And then lastly, just recently, Eric Adams, my opponent, said that he has met with gang leaders with bodies. Now, for those of you who don't know the street terminology, gang leaders with bodies means not just gang members, gang leaders who have actually shot and killed people. He has met with them. Do you think he asked him for their vaccine passport and ID card? Of course not. I pressed him on the issue in the debate. What gang leaders? When? Where? Why? How? And he wouldn't answer. He said, I did it to get confidential information. Then, if you remember, I said, but you never even met with the police unions, including your former union, the Captains Benevolent Association, who wouldn't even give you their endorsement in the primary. They endorsed Andrew Yang. This man wants to elevate gang leader killers and give them a place at the table of public safety in City Hall. I want to lock up gang leaders who kill, incarcerate them, set an example to your other young people that for your actions there are consequences, and then steer them away from the gangs instead of elevating them and giving them parity. And then lastly, this is so important. People laughed at me initially. And you know it's a danger to laugh at me because I might punch your schnoz right down your throat. But people laughed at me. They said, oh, you're the cat man. How many cats do you have in your apartment? I said, now it's 17. And you know why there are 17 cats in my 328 square foot apartment that I share with my wife, Nancy? It's because every one of those 17 cats would have been destroyed or euthanized in the shelter systems of New York that we pay millions of dollars for, with the assumption that when you surrender a cat, dog, or another animal, or they find one wandering the streets, that the shelter system will find them a home of their own, right? You all believe that? Yes. You all believe that they'll be fostered out, adopted, or a rescue group will come. The truth is, in 72 hours, if that cat, dog, or animal is not claimed, they're destroyed. They're euthanized. They even have a death watch list. Mahatma Gandhi said, one of the greatest individuals ever to exist in our world, a society that does not treat its animals well will not treat its human beings well. Obvious. Look at the emotionally disturbed and the homeless. When I become mayor, we will have no-kill shelters. We are never going to kill a dog or a cat or an animal again. Those are our furry little friends. In fact, they're like our family members. I don't know about you. I would much rather talk to my 17 cats than my ex-wives, friends, business associates, guardian angels, or anyone else. Because oftentimes all they give me is mishigash. Whereas all the pets give me is love. And that's what the world needs more of. I'm a compassionate, caring politician. And we haven't had many of them lately. So let's set a new example. Get to the polls, get your family, friends, and members that you know who work in the city and can vote in the city to send a shockwave that's heard all over the world. Because Eric Adams has not been coronated. He's not been anointed. The Pope Francis has not reached out to him for beatification. We did that so many times before. Remember with Andrew Cuomo? We had him running for president of the United States. They were saying St. Andrew Cuomo, and soon he may be behind bars wearing the silver pearly cuffs. So ladies and gentlemen, common sense should prevail. Get out, vote, save your neighborhood, improve, don't move, raise your children and grandchildren in the standards that you believe are proper. Go to your community boards, go to your school boards, participate. That's what democracy is about. And don't let anyone put fear into you that if you defy politicians, none of whom can be trusted, and that includes me, that the people's will should not prevail. I trust people. I don't trust politicians. Thanks for coming out here tonight. Thank you.
Curtis! 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 Yes, thank you all. And just remind everyone, reach out to your neighbors, to your friends, to your relatives, either by social media, Instagram, text message, anything. Get out and vote. Get out and vote. Vote, vote, vote. Vote, vote, vote. Well, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all. All right. Thank you.